Hi, Steve here. I want to share something with you that's a sad fact of the time we're living in right now. This isn't hype or baloney, and it's probably the main reason we're seeing the dramatic rise in erratic and irrational behavior in people all over the world. But first, I want to tell you the truth about this world system. It's a world system that's run by the men and women called globalists or Luciferians, people that have sworn their allegiance to the prince of the power of the air. His name is Lucifer, or Satan. And those who serve him are the ones behind this hideous and insidious plot to exterminate mankind. This is true. The God of all creation has given this planet to mankind, but Adam, the first man, gave his authority back to Satan when he disobeyed the God of all creation. And that's how it started.
It's in the New World Order! Who's the one to blame when your dollar's worth a quarter? Makers, politicians, and the New World Order! Globalist scumbags!
Jesus came and gave his life to redeem mankind. We're approaching the fulfillment of God's plans, and before we reach that, Satan will be launching the most blatant and fierce attack on humanity ever seen on earth. But it will be directed at those who reject him and receive Jesus Christ as their Lord. Remember that. Most people are completely oblivious of God and asleep to the mass chemtrail operation the globalists have been doing to humanity across the planet. More than ISIS or any other genocide is the human genocide quietly going on above us every single day. I know this won't be received well by the masses, but for the few that still have some cognitive reasoning ability left, you need to know this. The late Dr. Ayla Perlinguera, she published groundbreaking information in May 2010 about the dangers of chemtrails. We've known for decades that heavy metals and chemicals can cause serious physical harm, but did you know it's causing emotional dysregulation, outbursts of emotion, and an incapacity to control behavioral explosions, irritability, rage, and anxiety? They're all emotional symptoms that are becoming more common than anything we've ever seen before. We've been warned about the seriousness and the consequences of using or being exposed to these poisons in our daily activities. Thousands of these poisons are well documented to cause cancer. We see a rise in cancer. We also know that certain chemicals disrupt human and other animals' entire immune systems. Even 30 years ago, researchers were investigating what became known as endocrine hormone disrupting chemicals. We're also exposed to more than 100,000 chemicals regularly. Most of them have never been tested for human safety. So almost nothing has been done to reduce human exposure to dozens of hazardous chemicals. In fact, over the past decade, the Bush administration dismantled many environmental laws in existence for 30 years to let corporations off the hook. Most of these highly toxic chemicals are invisible, and that's pretty scary. With a high stress level created by the deliberately orchestrated financial crisis, where millions have lost their jobs and homes, a degraded, collapsing environment, or serious health problems are not priorities, especially when very little is reported about it in mainstream media. This disaster scenario is part of the larger picture that Naomi Klein wrote about in her book, The Shock Doctrine. We have so many major crises, one after another, that it's hard just to keep up with our daily routine, let alone have time to read and consider the toxicological health ramifications of massive amounts of thousands of heavy metals and chemicals that have poisoned our entire food chain and our own health. We're at the very top of this wrecked food chain. Now, there's another far more insidious layer of toxicity that's not being addressed at all in any mainstream media or corporate-controlled news media, and it's affecting our very survival. More and more independent researchers who have supporting evidence to back up their internet reports are. For more than a decade, the United States and Canada's citizens have been subjected to a 24/7, 365-day aerosol assault over our heads made of a toxic brew of poisonous heavy metals, chemicals, and other dangerous ingredients. And it's all been done on purpose. None of this is reported by any mainstream media. The U.S. Department of Defense and military have been systematically blanketing all our skies with what are known as chemtrails or stratospheric aerosol geoengineering.
Mendenhall Air Force Base is a Royal Air Force base station located in Mendenhall at Suffolk, England, on the east side and near the Channel, and supports Royal Air Force and United States Air Force KC-135 tankers. KC-135 tankers are nothing more than 707s converted to huge fuel tanks in the sky. In this case, we suspect that these are chemtrail aircraft. Zoom in on the airbase and we see of about 13 KC-135 tankers parked on the field. Most of them are in for the day. Later on in the shot, you'll see that there aren't that many chemtrails in the sky, although there is a haze. So most of these aircraft are parked on this particular day in 2009. I'll leave the links down below so you can see for yourself on Google. And we just go around the field and we count up about 12 or 13 of these aircraft. KC-135 tankers. It's probably enough to dirty up the skies all over the EU, complete from east to west. And there you have the USAF insignia right on top of the wing. And those gray planes with the black noses.
These are completely different from the usual plane contrails that evaporate quickly in the sky. Chemtrails don't dissipate. Planes fitted with special nozzles release aerosol lines in the sky that do not evaporate. Multiple planes are deployed, flying parallel or often checkerboard patterns overhead, and soon the sky is blanketed with many grayish white lines miles and miles long. If you've looked up in the sky, you've probably seen them many times. At first, these lines are thin, but soon they expand, and in a short time they merge together. Our once blue sky has vanished, and it's been replaced by a grayish-white toxic haze that blots out and greatly diminishes our normal sunshine. If you're under 30, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. You've probably never seen a normal sky in your lifetime, because there hasn't been one. Military and commercial planes are all involved in more than 60 secret operations. Last year, a United Airlines jet was seen flying below passengers at about 37,000 feet, spraying a black aerosol that went for miles and miles across the sky. This clandestine program now includes aerosol spraying in North America, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, all NATO countries. Hundreds, if not thousands of people have called and written their public officials to get answers. Replies from US and Canadian officials don't come, or if they do reply, queries are just dismissed. This remains an ongoing, deliberate cover-up. No one is held accountable while we continue to be poisoned every single day. The US military has been spraying chemical and biological weapons in open-air testing over civilian populations since the 1940s. It's not new. The military has even admitted it, and there's plenty of documentation from the government to corroborate it. But it continues today. Over the past decade, independent testing of chemtrails around the country has shown the extremely poisonous brew that includes barium, nano-aluminum-coated fiberglass known as chaff, radioactive thorium, cadmium, chromium, nickel, desiccated blood, mold spores, yellow fungal mycotoxins, ethylene dibromide, and polymer fibers. Barium can be compared to the toxicity of arsenic. Barium adversely affects the heart. Aluminum has a history of damaging brain function. Independent researchers and labs continue to show off-the-scale levels of these poisons. A few anonymous officials have admitted to this ongoing aerosol spraying. For more than 10 years, researcher Clifford Carnicom has been systematically reporting on the various detrimental aspects of these aerosols and what they're doing to our entire environment, as well as our blood. With all these poisons surrounding our every breath, it's not surprising that we're seeing a dramatic increase in illnesses. Increase in cardiac deaths and upper respiratory illnesses, asthma, chronic bronchitis, lung cancer, and often multiple chronic illnesses. Chemtrail toxicity has caused significant increase in heart disease and various upper respiratory illnesses. Brain injury is happening and may explain the inexplicable rise in sociopathic behavior that verges on insanity. Even with the increases in preventable illnesses, the issue that has not been linked or addressed with what Clifford Carnicom rightly calls aerosol crimes is the deterioration of cognitive function. We can't think anymore. Thinking, reasoning, or remembering. Our immune system is already under attack daily. And this has resulted in millions, possibly billions of people with not just one illness, but often multiple ones. The skin is the largest organ in our body, a permeable membrane. This means that invisible toxins in our air, including chemtrails and other highly dangerous chemicals, they go right into our skin, right in. When we breathe the air, it's filled with dangerous assortment of toxins with each breath we take. These poisons assault our entire human immune system. These poisons also affect our brain and thus our ability to use intellectual activity like thinking, reasoning, and remembering things. Could this explain what's happening in America? Could this be the reason? The most hate-charged environment I've ever seen in our nation's history. People are literally going mad. Murders, riots, and crimes of unimaginable atrocities, unthinkable a half century ago. Aluminum is commonly used in vaccines, deodorants, and antiperspirants, over-the-counter medications, soft drink, and beer cans. But aluminum leaches from the cans and gets in our blood. Baking powder, cake mixes, processed cheeses, and other food products and additives. They all contain aluminum. Read the labels. Over time, aluminum accumulates in the brain, tissues, and the bones. But with the constant spraying that's on us, it doesn't take as long to do its damage. It causes brain degeneration, dysfunction, and damage due to the blockage and reduced blood flow and oxygen of brain arteries. The brain literally shrinks as brain cells die. This causes dementia. Symptoms include emotional outbursts, paranoia, forgetfulness and memory loss, speech incoherence, irritability, diminished alertness, changes in personality, and poor and bad judgment. All these are increasing as more than 4 million Americans are afflicted. Brain deterioration and dementia take decades to cause serious and visible harm. Eventually, though, dementia is fatal. Alzheimer's is now being used incorrectly as a catch-all term for all kinds of dementia. This is patently wrong. Alzheimer's dementia can only be accurately diagnosed after death, when a post-mortem can be done. Heavy metals poisoning can be diagnosed through lab testing, but this is rarely done for basic checkups. What no one talks about with dementia is the more than 10 years of breathing chemtrails with nano-aluminum coated fiberglass. Billions of tons have been sprayed on us. With all these sources of aluminum added to the air we breathe, the cumulative toxicity is very high. It's obvious to anyone who's paying attention that many people are behaving oddly. There are millions of people whose behavior is very strange. Have you ever asked someone a question and got an answer that is totally unrelated? There have been more and more uncontrolled outbursts in public areas. Someone snaps for no apparent reason. Violence is up. Look at all the shootings on school campuses. There are more unexplained auto accidents and road rage that never should have happened. The news is full of these stories. And even the US government admits to spraying chemtrails.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly. As promising as it may be, moving forward on SAI would also raise a number of challenges for our government and for the international community.
The U.S. Air Force reported in 1997 that it released 2 million 6 to 7 ounce bundles of chaff, but the Air Force won't release up-to-date figures. They wouldn't dare. A 2002 report notes that over the last 25 years, the Navy has released from planes several 100,000 pounds of aluminized chaff during flight operations over a training area on the Chesapeake Bay. If the Navy used hundreds of thousands of pounds in just this small area of the U.S., what do you think the results are from billions of tons of nano-aluminum by all the military divisions throughout the U.S. and Canada? Dr. Hildegard Steininger said that exposure to aerial emissions of nanocomposite materials results in cholinesterase inhibition. The human body has three kinds of cholinesterase: for the brain, for plasma, and for red blood cells. Chemtrail aerosols inhibit cholinesterase. This exposure causes severe neurological disorders, including paralysis in humans.
Brittany Smithers was sick of being told the excruciating pain she felt was all in her head.
I had MRI scans, blood tests, x-rays, and they just didn't really find anything.
Julie Wright's experience was similar.
No balance, falling backwards. My left leg was very weak.
After endless tests, the pair were eventually diagnosed with a functional neurological disorder.
These are very disabling disorders. These are life-changing disorders that stop people from working, stop people from functioning in society, functioning as part of the family.
Dr. Kilburn's research clearly shows that chemicals do affect and seriously harm the brain and cognitive function. Chemicals, especially a daily onslaught of toxic chemicals over many years, can damage our ability to think clearly. Even if you find this hard to believe, the evidence is there. It seems almost unbelievable that millions and billions of people could look up at the sky and not notice the dramatic changes that have occurred from what it was even as recent as the mid-1990s. I remember blue skies and beautiful puffy clouds. I remember. Our sky was a gorgeous deep blue. Clouds were a beautiful assortment of shapes. The sun was bright. But people under 30, they have no sense or recollection about looking up every day and seeing this normal, beautiful sky. People are in their own comfort zones, and denial is a very powerful human emotion. How many people even look up at the sky? It also takes huge courage and a very deep internal willingness to examine and search for the real answers. We like our regular routines. To re-examine what we think we know based on new evidence, it takes a willingness to think outside the box and to want to find out the real truth. Millions of people are already on prescription drugs to calm them down. Do you realize what this is doing to their ability to think clearly? How can anyone feel well and safe if the very air we breathe is deliberately poisoned and affecting our ability to think? It's already evident that no one in any official capacity is willing to tell the truth. No one seems to have the desire, courage, or authority to stop this massive poisoning, because it's the secret plan of the elite Luciferians and globalist insiders to deliberately destroy everything we know. I can already hear someone say, oh, but hey, don't they realize that they're breathing the same air as we are and breathing the same toxins as we are? That's a good question. But they have antidotes, and they have ways to remove these toxins that are not available to the public. Our basic human rights, constitutional and international laws are mere paper. These rights and laws have all been torn apart by those in charge. It's been done in stealth and secrecy, year after year, with impunity against all laws. It's absolutely imperative that we organize. We have to use the internet and our peaceful intellectual powers to come together and shut this nightmare down. It is possible to do this with God. This is a mass chemtrail mind control secret that must be exposed and stopped before it can damage us anymore. But if it isn't, then it's certain that most of us will die way ahead of our time. We know we're all going to die in this body sometime, but some people think that's all there is when you die. Far from it. That's only the beginning. You have an opportunity to choose life while you're still breathing. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. He said, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in, adheres to, trusts in, relies on me as Savior will live, even if he dies. It's that simple. The day will come when you will die. If you're not relying on Jesus, the Son of the living God, for eternal life after your body dies, or you're killed. You will spend eternity in the same exact place that the prince of the power of the air will be. We're being hit with poisons and threats of annihilation all around us. We have no guarantees of surviving another day, but we do have a promise from God. If we choose to trust and rely in Him, if you don't have that relationship with Jesus Christ, just ask Him into your heart, and you'll have that life starting right now. Think about it. Hi, Steve here. You know, I love to get on YouTube and look at some of the videos, but I'll be honest with you, so much of the stuff on YouTube, and especially a lot of stuff with millions of views, is the most waste of time videos. But you know what? That's not the kind of videos I want to do. I want to do things that'll make a change in your life and that will help you to make a change in your life. I want to do videos that mean something, that have a real meaning and a real purpose. So, you know, I'd love to entertain, and I could do that all day long, but I want to give you videos that really matter, and that's the goal. So please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it already, so that you can get the videos as soon as I put them out. I want to give you something that matters. Thanks for watching. Think about it now on YouTube.